Welcome to the Kingdom, a podcast dedicated to CCBC Essex Athletics and the land defended by Sir Ross's Knights. Now here's your host, Rocco Jeppy.
Hello again, Knights Nation. Rocco Jeppy here for the Kingdom podcast, and alongside co-host Aaron Thomas, we bring you episode number 21. Aaron, welcome back. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and exciting to be back and ready to talk about some more women's basketball.
Absolutely, and with us today, special guest star, making his first appearance on the show, CCBC Essex Athletic Administrator Greg Witkop. Greg, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Glad to be here. It only took 21 episodes, so not too bad.
We wanted to make sure we had everything perfect before we had the boss on, you know. Big weekend in New York this past weekend, back in Greg's hometown near Buffalo up in Niagara County as the Knights went to New York for the Thunderwolves Classic, and unfortunately for the number 9 Knights, things did not go their way the first day as they took on host and number 8 Niagara County. They dropped that one 112-77.
And the Knights shot just 33% from the field and hit just 20% of their three-point attempts in that game. So if you've been following us and you know anything about this women's team this year, Coach Mike Cini not very happy about those shooting percentages. Another surprise number, the Thunderwolves out-rebounded the Knights 55-36. Pretty crazy number there.
Yeah, it's definitely some crazy numbers, Greg, when we think about where this team sat before they headed up to New York. You were at the games there all weekend. Tell us what you saw in that game that led to just the Knights' second loss of the season.
I mean, I think you start with we knew going into this game that it was going to be probably our biggest challenge to date. 5 sophomore starters for Niagara from a team that went 31-2. Wow. They went 31-0 to the national tournament last year, lost by 1 point. So we knew going into it, it was a veteran group. It was a group that'll win more games than any team in Niagara County history. You're looking at a team that's probably going to win 60 games over 2 years. So we knew going into the game that it was a talented group. It's a well-coached. I've known their coach for a long time. It's a well-coached group. They play sound team basketball, but they have players who are very skilled, and they have well-established roles. So they know what each of their jobs are, and they do those things really well, and they focus on those things. I think, when we look at the game, we try to see, can we pressure them? Can we get the ball inside? Those things. And to their credit, defensively, they took everything we tried to do away from us. They didn't give us any easy shots. Mm-hmm. Like you said, they out-rebounded us by 19. And when we don't shoot the ball well, we either need to rebound and get second chance points, or we need to pressure people and get easier shots. And they handled pressure well. They just did a good job of everything that we tried. They kind of had a reaction to, mm-hmm. and it just kind of snowballed as the game went on. Things weren't clicking for us, and we kind of tried to force things, and we tried different lineups. So we tried a lot of things, and none of it really worked, and that's to their credit.
One of the things you say that stands out there is, 5 sophomores in the starting lineup. That is, you're not going to see that at all, really, at any sport at this level, and that's going to be tough for pretty much any team to go up against, but particularly this Knights team that's so young. You have so many players playing together for the first time. That's going to be tough to go up against a team like that knows where everyone's going to be at all times.
Yeah, and I think the other thing with Niagara, and you hate to say it, having relationships there, obviously, knowing what our team is capable of. They're the team that came in with a chip on their shoulder. They're the team that won 31 games last year, that was nationally ranked all year, that went to the national tournament last year. And, on their home court, they kind of felt like they needed to earn a little bit of respect. Mm-hmm. And, obviously with the result, I think they've done that, and, we did a lot of publicity with this team. It's a first-year team. We need to get the name out.
Sure.
And we did a lot of that, and I think they probably used that to fuel themselves a little bit. And like I said, to their credit, that they showed up, they made the plays, and they got the result they wanted. Now for us, it's you play a huge game on Wednesday. The good thing about basketball is you don't have to wait a week like football to get back out there. So a couple days, we have another huge game coming up. So.
Yeah, it's definitely to your point. Not only the publicity and the national ranking and everything like that, but you never want to not play well in your own tournament or your own classic rather. That's something I'm still getting used to with basketball. Is it's all classics, and there are very few tournaments in our level. But I think to all the points that you just made, that probably could account for, losing by 10 or 11 or everything else that you mentioned. That's what led to a 30-plus point loss.
Greg, you brought up the fact that this is a really good team, so it does seem like the Knights kind of ran into a buzzsaw. Was it like that really from the beginning, or do you think there was a certain point in the game where things really started to turn and the wheels kind of fell off the bus for the Knights?
Yeah, I just think that there's things where internally our team thought maybe we could stop some things, and then you see them breaking pressure and having Imborski, who's a fantastic player, committed Division I, she runs straight to the three-point line and knocks a shot down, and you're like, yeah, maybe somewhere we thought that we could stop that a little bit through pressure or through changing defensively. And when they got open looks, they knock them down. They're I think they have 4 starters shooting 40% from 3. You see, they shot 56% for the game. Then it kind of turned into offensively, we're firing up a lot of threes. We're not getting second chances. They did a good job of scrapping for every single rebound, every single loose ball. And then we probably gave up 15 to 20 points on easy transition layups, just where we didn't get back on defense. So, I think they, it was like we would throw a punch and they'd hit us back 3 times, and when we got to the 6th or 7th round, we were kind of punched out, So the other thing is they're starter heavy, where they have a lot of freshmen on the bench that are not quite as experienced as that starting group. They had 4 starters play 32 minutes. Their starting group combined only had 7 fouls for the game. Wow. So, they did a nice job defensively of playing solid team defense, but also not fouling and getting in trouble where maybe you do get into some freshmen who don't have as much game experience. Their players that did come off the bench early did a nice job, but their starters, like I said, 4 of them played 32 minutes.
One of the things we talked to Coach Cini about was with this offense, and as good as he thinks it can be, it's because I think all of us think it can be, is their, whatever words you want to use, their, not necessarily fear, but how they attack the zone. They hadn't been doing a good job. Did Niagara come out in a zone defense, or did they come out in man? How did they come out to play them to start the game?
I mean, they played almost entirely man. They like playing man. I mean, that's kind of their thing, and they didn't let us dictate to them what they were going to do. They kind of dictated to us, and they did a nice job communicating. They did a good job. When we saw them, whether it was on video or live, maybe at times they got beat off the dribble. They just did a nice job containing us. And we didn't, in the first half, we got to the basket a little, and I felt like we missed some easy ones that we should finish. But again, they defensively as a team just played really well, and it wasn't so much like we had some open shots. We just didn't knock anything.
Yeah, it sounds like it was just one of those days, because when you start missing those easy shots early, it can kind of really hurt your confidence a lot moving forward. And then you're going up against a really good team, too. You know, when you're not hitting shots and they are, it's really tough to make that kind of comeback.
Well, that's how day one went. We got to hit our first break. When we return, we're going to talk about how the Knights were able to rebound the next day. I'm Rocco Jeppe alongside Aaron Thomas, and today we're joined by CCBC Essex Athletic Administrator Greg Witkop. Stick around for more. You're listening to the Kingdom Podcast, a podcast dedicated to CCBC Essex Athletics. Mindful U Yoga Studio, located at 1705 Poplar Place in historic Dundalk, Maryland, is the ideal place to go for a mindful experience in Baltimore County. Entering its second year and recently awarded an executive citation by Baltimore County Executive John Olszewski Jr. for its commitment to the community, Mindful U offers a wide variety of yoga from vinyasa flow to mindful movement, gentle flow to alchemical yoga, and everything in between. Mindful U has your well-being in mind, offering reflexology, health coaching, herbalism, energy work, massage, and other wellness services. They also offer affordable pricing and package options that include discounts on other services. Gift certificates are now available, the perfect way to show that special someone just how much you care. To learn more, visit mindfuluyoga.com, follow them on Facebook, or call 410-935-2690. Mindful U Yoga Studio, where your attention goes, energy flows. Bring your attention inward to watch the magic unfold.
Let's talk about college. Times have changed, and I say no to an education at the cost of crippling debt. Because paying off student loans for the next 30 years is not in my financial plans.
Rethink what's possible with CCBC. Visit us online and see what you can be.
All right, we are back. There's our first commercial break, Mindful You Yoga Studio. Check that out, folks. And, of course, as always, a message from CCBC. Make sure you're going to the website, ccbcmd.edu. Winter classes are filling up, and they're filling up fast. And then, of course, you want to make sure that you get registered for spring semester. I'm Rocco Jeppi alongside Aaron Thomas, and we're joined by Greg Witkop today. So, guys, the Knights wasted not too much time wallowing in defeat. They had to get back on the court in less than 24 hours and take on Genesee Community College. And looking at the points, they, took care of business. 85-43 is the final score. And, some scorers getting back in the on the score sheet there, Aaron, in that game.
Yeah, you look at the end box score, it looks a lot more like a Knights game that we've been used to this season. The Knights finished this game with 4 in double figures, including 3 starters. And there seemed to be a theme as Casey Gagan, Maya Moy, and Kendall Haggerty all had 13 points. Haggerty added 10 rebounds for her first collegiate double-double. And then Aislinn Flynn, Ace, finished with 19 rebounds and 2 points shy of her 5th double-double. Craig, what was the big difference in the two games? Obviously, Niagara, like you talked about, ranked Division II team, one of the best teams over there. Do you think that was the difference? They just didn't play as good of a team, or do you think they, had a little bit more mojo coming off that loss?
I mean, I think you look at a combination of factors. I think, number one, Genesee isn't Niagara. Genesee's a 500 team. They have some solid players. They have some talent. They have some sophomores. Niagara's a whole different level. But against Genesee, we just had more success doing the things that we set out to do, whether it was getting easy shots through pressure. Obviously, the boards. You look at the game, and we talk about shooting, and we talk about Saturday. Well, we didn't shoot well. Our shooting percentage was lower on Sunday than it was on Saturday. But one of the big differences, and you talk about effort, and when you put in that effort, rebounding is 100% effort. I mean, you talk about technique and positioning, but effort gets you into position to rebound. On Saturday, we had 36 rebounds. On Sunday, we had 72 rebounds.
Yep.
So you look at, we didn't shoot as well, but we got easier shots. We got putbacks. We just got more opportunities. The other thing with Sunday, they have a freshman student athlete over there at Genesee who was coming off NJCAA Division II Player of the Week honors, where she averaged 28 a game the week prior. On Saturday, we watched her. She had 50 on Saturday. So we held her to 10. She had 10 in the first half and 0 in the second half. I think we were committed to stopping her. They have some other nice pieces. They have a shooter. They got a couple players inside, but she's really their dominant player. And we did a nice job on her and limited her, and she ended up fouling out, but we held her to 10. So I think we just had a different energy. Players coming off the bench gave us a spark. We were able to play some more people and keep people fresh. So it was a different game against a different level team. And I think with this team, I know you've seen it, when shots are going and we're rebounding, we're getting easy shots, we're getting shots in transition, we play better at the defensive end, we rebound better. When shots aren't going, when we're not getting what we want, the team then kind of goes into a funk. So I think the one thing we set out to do with this schedule, and we talk about the types of teams that we've played in the schedule, Hartford, who's now 10-1, won 2 games at Florida, play them on their home court, played 2 Division I teams in New York City in their backyard. You go to North Carolina and play a team that was number 4 in the country at the time. You played Union and Harcum on a neutral court. You need to learn how to play through the tough spots.
Right.
So we're going to see, as the season goes on, we have a couple more tough games coming up in the Title IX Classic as well. But you're going to see how does the team improve when they see adversity.
Right.
So we've seen that on multiple occasions, and you hope that you improve. That's why we set out, we're going to put together a really tough schedule so that when we get to the second semester, we're ready for those spots. As we go through, and head towards regionals in the postseason.
To that point, Bill Gates, well, kind of a friend of the program, he covers us for the Avenue News and also the Dundalk Eagle. He wrote a piece in this week's paper where he interviewed Coach Cini, and one of the things that the two of them talked about was how, with being a startup program, even though we have sophomores, this is the first year that these young ladies have played together, and obviously you work out and stuff in the off season together, but really this is like having almost all freshmen because they're all working together. How much of that do you think, I don't want to say plays into the slow start because we're 12-2. I don't think we call that a slow start, but I think where we know this team can be slow start in that respect, how much of that plays into it? I mean, obviously being a former coach, we'd love to hear your take on that.
I mean, one of the things you look at in developing a strong team is establishing roles and what you can call on people to bring you. And I think the challenging thing when you have 13, 14 student athletes on the team who are all new, who haven't played together, who haven't played with this coaching staff, is just how long does it take to establish that, coaches always say chemistry. Like you look at Niagara, they have it. You look at some of the other teams you play and they have it because they have half their team is returning from the previous year.
Right.
So when you take 13 or 14 players, many of whom are all stars at their previous destination or previous location, all trying to come together to build one team. It's tricky.
Yeah.
So it's it's going to take a little bit of time, and then as you develop that chemistry, now you know what you can dial up that's going to work when you need it. So I think like I said, we could put a schedule together where you go 10-0, 12-0, whatever, and there, Niagara will be the first ones to say it's hard to get games when you're good, So we scheduled all 30 of these games were scheduled before we signed a single player. So we kind of came into the mindset of we're going to schedule these really tough games, and when we're recruiting, we're going to say we're playing 3 teams that were in the Final Four last year. We're playing some Division I teams. We're going up to New York for a tournament. We're going to North Carolina. We're going to Niagara Falls.
Right.
It's kind of the recruiting pitch. So now it's just we're at the point where we're 12-2. We got a couple more before semester break to take care of. And then what do you have for those last 10 games leading into the regional?
Because we've seen the alternative in the past here. Aaron's been around for this with other sports where, sure, we can have a schedule where we go 10-0 and we're beating teams 7-0 or whatever, given the sport. But what does that really help you with when it gets to the postseason? You're not preparing yourself for anything. And so I think you guys have done a great job putting this schedule together to test the team, to get them battle tested, to try and form that chemistry, because we all know come, February, March, that's when it matters, and that's when you want them to be prepared.
And I think it kind of really goes along with the theme that we've been talking about all along with this season, and that Coach Mike Cini kind of piggybacked on last week in our episode, was the team that we see right now we know is not the team that it is going to be once the season is over. There's going to be a lot more growing to go with all these players. And, we know with the stat lines look good now, but they're going to look even better once the season continues to go on.
I think you're exactly right there. We are, unfortunately, we got to hit that second break now. When we return, more with Aaron and Greg, and we're going to shift gears a little bit as we are essentially ending the semester with this podcast. We're going to talk championships as we take a look back at the Knights fall sports season. You're listening to the Kingdom Podcast, a podcast dedicated to CCBC Essex Athletics. Jersey Mike's is a proud sponsor of CCBC Essex Athletics, located just 2.5 miles off campus at 7976 Honeygo Boulevard in White Marsh Plaza. Jersey Mike's offers a wide variety of cold and hot subs, sides, beverages, and desserts. CCBC faculty, staff, and students receive 5% off with college ID. Visit today or call 410-237-8137. Jersey Mike's, a sub above since 1958.
Let's talk about college. Times have changed, and I refuse to accept an education that comes with a mountain of crippling debt. Because paying off student loans for the next 30 years is not in my financial plans.
For all the practical thinkers, the achievers, the can't wait to get started types out there, your community college is waiting. Rethink what's possible with CCBC. Visit us online at ccbcmd.edu and see what you can be.
All right, we are back, and this is going to be our final segment with Greg Witkop. Greg, we appreciate you coming on the show today with, and we gave you a little bit of notice, but not the type of notice you want to have to come on. But I mean, I think, if we looked at the transcript, he's pretty much led this episode anyway, so I think it all worked out.
Yeah, no, it's been solid, and it's always nice to have a bird's eye view from the game. And since we weren't there, it's a great guest.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk championships now. We 5 sports teams in the fall. We had men and women's soccer, men's and women's cross country, and volleyball. And the Knights finished the fall season with 3 regional championships, 2 conference championships. They send a team to a national tournament. They send a couple of young ladies to a national meet out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Of course, they're talking about Gabby Turner and Carson Marcelino, women's cross country, picking up their first regional title since 2012, which is a big accomplishment. And had a couple people talking to me about it, and some folks that we know in the industry, and they say, well, you're the only ones that showed up with a full squad, so you had to. But here's the thing that I say to that. That's kind of a testament to the program. We showed up with a full squad, and the times that they ran more than likely would have won them the championship anyway. But head coach Noah Hutton, and then he took, I believe it was 3 men to the national meet as well. He's in his 3rd season. He's really turned these programs around, and to get a championship for the first time in 7 years is a big deal.
Yeah, really, just to talk about the overall state of our cross-country program, Noah's done a tremendous job. Just from every team starts with the recruiting aspect, and he's done a great job of networking. It's helpful that we have meets on our campus during the winter months, but he's out at the Baltimore County Championships. He's out at the regional championships. He's out at the state meet. He's really done a great job with, in addition to recruiting, just the overall management of the program. The scheduling of what meets they're going to prepare for the postseason, but also just the fundraising part, the academic pieces. He's done a good job of working with our advisors to get student athletes moving forward. He's had student athletes redshirt, where you see other sports where somebody comes in for a season and plays, and then maybe the next year they decide, whether it's for academic reasons, for personal reasons, not to come back the next year. He's really done a good job of keeping those people active with the program. He has people who he keeps on scholarship. He has people who are out there practicing every day on a redshirt season. We had our top returner from 2018 actually redshirted this year, and is expected to be back in 2020. Yeah. So, he's done a really good job of just managing our student athletes. Our program's in a great position. My biggest worry with cross country is we may not be able to keep them that long. That some 4-year school could swoop in and try to steal them, because he is really an overall sound coach in every aspect of program development.
He's easy to work with too, and speaking of those red shirts, it's it's really amazing the job that he does to strategically position his red shirts. And one of the red shirts that stands out to me when talking about women is Marissa Hernandez, who ran for the team 2 years ago, red shirt last year, came back this year, and we had her in studio before, and Marissa will be the first to tell you, she's not winning any individual awards when it comes to cross country. But what we've seen in that time with Marissa is her leadership ability has grown to the point that he named her captain this year. And, to a woman, each one of the girls that we talk about, Marissa, they enjoyed her leadership. And I think that makes a big deal for a sport like cross country.
Well, I think the one thing, Noah's done a great job, whether it's through his career athletically, him as a teacher in his professional life. But I think cross country, probably more than other sports, you learn how to be committed, dedicated, and loyal to your team, and hopefully they carry that over into their adulthood. When they go out and get a real job, they have a degree, that same level of commitment and dedication to whatever it is they decide to do.
Yeah, definitely a great season for cross country, women's cross country, bringing home the regional championship. And we're going to bring Aaron back into the conversation here. I know it's difficult when we talk cross country because there's not really much of a role for you when it comes to cross. Not much of a role for us either. All the meets are away. But now we're going to switch gears. We're going to head back to the pitch and talk about men's soccer. Aaron, Maryland JUCO champs for the first time in 2 seasons. It's their 4th in 5 years. And they pick up their 8th straight Region Division I championship. Their swan song, if you will, their final year at Division I, and they go out on top. Isaiah Price, an All-American for the 2nd straight year, and it's the 14th straight year. I finally stumped head coach Joe Fiedler with something because he doesn't realize 14th straight year that the team has had an All-American.
That's funny that you say that because I was going to ask, is that a stat that Coach Fiedler was aware of that had been 14 straight years? Because he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's keeping track of that.
He doesn't keep track, but he doesn't miss much. He's had one every single year he's been here, and then the previous 6 seasons, if my Kenwood math is correct there, we had All-Americans as well, and I think we've become I don't want to say numb, but the expectations we have for the men's program, we just expect the same thing every year. We go in, we know we're talented enough to win another regional championship, and we know we have that target on our back because those in the region want to take down the king, the Kings of Maryland, and so far so good for men's soccer over the last 8 seasons.
Yeah, and it's been a while since we talked about the soccer team, and you highlighted there when you were talking about it is the last year they're in the Division I. Greg, can you highlight for the fans at home why the move from Division I to Division II is a good move for the team?
Well, I think that when we talk just in the national landscape, I think we're looking and trending towards having divisional commitments by school. So they wanted to establish a Division II, just like we have in a lot of other sports, so that when they say you have to decide on a division by school, that option is there, both for cross country and for men's and women's soccer. Mm-hmm. So I think when you look at the national picture in men's soccer and women, you have schools that have full tuition, full housing, full meal scholarships. So right now, when you're competing at the Division I level, when you get to nationals, you're competing with programs that have anywhere from 18 to 24 full rides, almost entire international rosters. At the Division II level, you're going to have institutions that are more similar to us, just in funding for scholarships, funding for operations. Mm-hmm. So it's a good fit. Also, we trend to be Division II across the board in all our sports, and that would be our likely direction. So it just puts us in line with all of our other teams. But I think it allows us to kind of move up in the pecking order a little bit nationally, where we're kind of being more compared to schools that are like us in structure.
Yeah, I think it's a good explanation, and I think I'm excited to see what that brings because, to your point, we don't have to the folks see it. Our opening classic, you have Monroe and Eastern Florida come in here, and 18 to 20 guys. Like we talked about in one of the opening episodes, we had 4 international players this year. And Eastern Florida and Monroe, you could throw a beach ball in their bus and hit 4 international players with that first throw. Yeah. And it's tough to compete when you're playing teams like that. And I think that's what athletics aims to do. We aim to put people on similar playing fields and let the competitive juices decide things. Let's not let scholarships and things of that nature decide things. So I think it's going to be a good move, and I think I don't know. We'll see. We'll see in less than in about 8 months or so. We'll see how that plays out. Moving on to our final championship team, and what a team it was. What a year it was. Women's soccer, they lost game 1 of this season on August 24th, 15-0 to Monroe. They were missing 7 starters in that game. Guys, they didn't lose again until November the 9th in the district final. They go 19-4 overall after going 7-9-1 last year. Maryland JUCO champs for the first time since 2002. Region 20 Division I champs for the first time in 7 years. They go to the national tournament as an at-large. Their first trip there since 1995. We've talked about it before. The only person on the team that was alive when that happened was head coach Joe Fiedler. not a single assistant coach, not a single student athlete, obviously. I think, what is it, all three of the people in this room, I think you said you were a year old or something?
Yeah, I was one.
You were one. So, Kara Dietrich, a lot of big names as we're going to talk about here. Kara Dietrich stood out, 52 goals, second in the nation, and she gets an All-American honor, the first women's soccer player to earn All-American honor since 2002. I don't know what more we can say about this team that we haven't said on this program.
The thing I'm interested in to find out from you, Greg, is were you surprised at how quick the turnaround was? I mean, 7-9-1, not a bad record last year for Coach Fiedler in his first year as the women's head coach, but to have that kind of turnaround from year one to year two, was it? I don't think it's any disrespect to say it's somewhat surprising. Was it somewhat surprising?
I mean, I think we knew when Coach Fiedler got involved with the women's program, I think we knew we were immediately going to take kind of a step in that direction just because of whether it's the network. It was just a new dynamic with the program.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of doing things different for the first time in a while. And, as you commit to development of the program, we started to have conversations with players that we thought were talented enough to get us to that level. But it's just getting them all to buy in. I think the first year it was tricky to get some of those players to buy in and believe what we were talking about. This year's group bought in. I think that first game was kind of made some people nervous. And early on in the season, we dealt with some injuries. We had two starters who were potential starters who didn't play all season. Right. Even as we go to nationals, we have two players who would have been solid players for us, never touched the field. So I think it was just developing that lineup, what worked best, getting some people back from injury. And once we started rolling, I think it also helped with the schedule after that first game. We had a stretch of 4 or 5 or 6 games that we knew we had a chance to win those games. And then you go up to Monroe in upstate New York and beat a team that beat us. You can check me. You can check me after the fact. I think it was 14-1 last year. And beat them 3-1 at their place was really the eye-opening one when you're on that trip and you see that game and you say, wow, maybe what we've done to this point is not by mistake.
Yeah, we've talked about that trip was really important to the season.
Yeah, and I think the team just gelled and having, when you look back at as we do these things and the things you do in your career, taking a trip with that team to nationals in Florida was a really rewarding experience. It's a great group of student athletes, a great group of young ladies, very committed academically, but as committed academically, focused on the job at hand on the soccer field. And, we talked about Division I, Division II, and what that means. You tell people in nationals who aren't really familiar with your program, every one of our student athletes lives at home with mom and dad and drives back and forth to school every day. And they're kind of like, yeah, right, good one. And I'm like, no, seriously. And they all live at home and drive back and forth and eat dinner with their parents. So it just tells you that the pecking order in soccer, but to get to that level with a team where everyone commutes back and forth to school, it says a lot about what Coach Fiedler and his staff have done with this program in short order.
Yeah. I think one of the things you highlight there, and is one of the cool things that we didn't really discuss it during the season, but it just made me realize it when you're talking about it there, is it was organic.
Yeah.
And it was organic, and it was a slow build, and it was one of those things where it's like, you blink and it's like, wow, this team's actually really good, and this is actually really fun to be a part of this, and there's a lot to look forward to with this program.
It was a lot of fun. It kept my face very warm, as we've talked about throughout this broadcast. A lot of names that we're gonna miss. You got Michaela Boyle who played her second year this year. You have Emily Vetri and Natalie Berkey, all sophomores, but they have a lot of freshmen that are going to be coming back to this team too. And Fiedler and the coaching staff hit the. I don't know that they were back home in Maryland for 24 hours yet when they had started returning from the national tournament. It's year 3 could be even more exciting.
Yeah, I think we had. To speak to that, the bus got back to Maryland, I think, at 4 and at 6. We had 3 people in Harford County ready for an all-star game that didn't happen, but they had 3 people up in Harford County ready for an all-star game that night.
Yeah.
So coming off a bus ride back from Florida and back out on the road to recruit, like you did say, there is the potential to have a really good group back, and then there's some incoming players, whether it be transfer or 2020s, who are looking to come. And the hardest thing right now, when we talk about scheduling and we talk about some of Niagara's challenges, being the best team up in Region 3, it'd be nice if I got some emails back from some people, because last year it was really easy to get women's soccer games, and now this year is like not as easy to get women's soccer games. So it'd be nice if I got a couple emails back, because I probably sent 30 and got two replies. So we need a couple more games. So if anyone out there listening, get us a couple more women's soccer games.
Feels a lot different to be the big dog.
Yeah, it does. Maybe we tag them in the post when we put this up. Hey, listen, Greg, it was really cool. It was really great to have you in studio today. Like Aaron said, anytime you can have the Chiefs or the General or whatever moniker you want to put out there in
I've been
the
called
studio.
a lot worse.
In the studio, it makes for good talk. We appreciate it. We're gonna get into our final break, but wanted to thank you for being on the show and coming by.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. Folks, we were here, Aaron and Rocco, with Greg Witkop. We're going to hit our final commercial break, and when we get back, we're going to send things to the end of this broadcast. You're listening to the Kingdom Podcast, a podcast dedicated to CCBC Essex Athletics. CCBC Essex Athletics would like to thank Chick-fil-A Nottingham Square, the official concession sponsor of Knights women's basketball. Find them in the lobby at Knights home basketball games or just 10 minutes off campus at 5198 Campbell Boulevard in Nottingham, Maryland. You can also follow them on Twitter at CFA Nottingham SQ.
Times have changed. No longer will I stay stuck in a job because college has no time for me. I have a life. And kids. I will not let a limited schedule limit me. My kids will see hard work pays off.
For all the practical thinkers, the achievers, the can't wait to get started types out there, your community college is waiting. Rethink what's possible with CCBC. Visit us online at ccbcmd.edu and see what you can be.
All right, Aaron, heading into the final segment, the final live segment of the year. It's coming up on winter break here at CCBC, and we have an early Christmas gift that we are working on in the studio for our listeners. Originally we said that it was going to be a two-part Best of the Kingdom podcast, but I'm not sure that we're going to be able to limit it to two, because we've made it through the first 4 episodes, and I have about 20 minutes of content just from the first 4 episodes. We might have to have a series of the Best of the Kingdom podcast as we're in winter break for our fans to listen to.
Oh, that's a lot better than the alternative. I was a little worried you were going to say, I don't know, we don't have enough best of quality to do 2 episodes. It could just be 1.
Nah, believe it or not, we've done a good enough job that we have some pretty good content. So we will have plenty available. Now it's just a matter of if I can get it all cut together in the next 3 days, because I am out of here after Friday. So
yeah, it's time for us to go on our own winter meeting.
Aaron, happy holidays to you. Happy New Year if I don't see you. And thanks for being here. I mean, we're 21 episodes into something that really started with a I don't even know if there's something pre-seed, like before a dandelion starts to turn into the seeds that blow around is where we were with this thing last year, and we continued to kind of talk about it, and then out of pure need, we started it with the previews, and we've been able to last for 21 episodes so far, so thank you for being a part of that journey.
Oh, well, thank you for having me, and it's no different than any other creative idea. It all starts with an idea, and then hard work brings it into real life.
All right. Well, as we leave, folks, don't forget, remember, youtube.com/CCBC Essex Knights for the streams, highlights, and, of course, this podcast. Become a subscriber, and you can set up a notification for any time we add new content. Thanks again to all of our sports teams. You can find them on Twitter, and, of course, the Knights women's basketball, they're on Twitter at Knights_WBB. Find them on Instagram at CCBC Essex_WBB. And locate us on Twitter. You can keep an eye on things. We'll be sending out information throughout the holidays at CCBC Essex Sports. That's our handle on Twitter and Instagram. And again, thank you to our listeners. Thank you to CCBC for letting us, do something like this. Thank you to our Director of Athletics, Brian Farrell, for giving us this platform and allowing us to kind of see our initiatives through. And he and Greg always having faith in what we want to try around here. And we appreciate that. Thanks for Greg Witkop for coming on the show today. And the digital media department, we thank them. Kendrick Kenney and Michael Walsh. We are in the padded studio today, so we hope to bring you better quality going forward. Thanks to them for allowing us to do that. And for one final time live here in 2019, this is Rocco Jeppy for Aaron Thomas saying so long. Stay tuned, because coming up in the next week and a half to 2 weeks, we're going to have a best of compilation, and we hope you will stop by and give a listen. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.